up? It's your host Torry, and who is ready to be petty? Welcome back to another episode of RTBP. Today I have a very jam-packed, very fun episode with Emily Rose from the It's Become a Whole Thing podcast. I introduce her like a dummy as like it's becoming a whole thing when it's obviously it's become a whole thing. She is a pop culture commentator on TikTok, and you'll hear our story about how I first came about Emily's TikTok and just how much that we have in common. Her This Week in Petty story, I swear to God, I might have laughed the hardest in the history of RTBP, so my apologies in advance to your ears. I don't want to keep you waiting much longer. So here is my conversation with Emily Rose. I'm back with a very special guest, Emily Rose from TikTok, and It's Becoming a Whole Thing, a podcast launching January 24th. Emily, how are you doing?
Great. I mean, I'm here with a very special host, like Torry. I feel like you just found me and plucked me out of obscurity, and here we are.
No, I feel like a few other people have said that, and it's just like, no, the reality is I am just on TikTok 24/7 and I find cool accounts and I'm like, I want to befriend this person, and how can I do that? I can make them come on my podcast.
Oh my God. Oh, well, okay, amazing. But just a little background for those listening.
Yes. Yeah, the listeners.
So I started my account 2 months ago. It's kind of taken off. Before it really took off, Torry found me. I think he found me like 3 or 4 days into me posting, and I think I had about maybe 5
I'm a
days.
Stalker.
No, it was amazing. Like I was like, me, you want little old me? I think I had like 3 or 4,000 followers, and you were like, hey, I like what you have to say. Like, do you want to be on my podcast? I'm like, is this real life? And then you're like such a boss and so organized. You're like, I'm booked for months, but like you can book yourself in. You didn't say it like that, but you said it like in a very humble way. But I was just so impressed at the way you ran things, and we're so like organized and detailed, everything. So you send me all the information, and then in that time, it's all kind of taken off, and now I have my own podcast that I'm cooking up. So it's all unfolded kind of more magically than I could have imagined.
I know. I'm so excited for your podcast because, like we said, Emily is on TikTok doing pop culture commentary, just like a mix of basically everything you would want to hear.
Whatever thoughts are in my scattered mind.
Yes, but they're also in my scattered mind. So I just love bouncing around different celebrities and different aspects of celebrity, and your page is just that.
Yeah, I mean, we're just two Canadian gals just looking to take a look at like every aspect of celebrity. And that's another funny thing, is that we were talking to each other as if we were Americans.
Yes.
And
No
offense to Americans, love Americans, they're amazing, but like I have met about one in my life that knows even where the capital of Canada is. Like they don't know their Canadian geography. Yes. So you're like, yeah, I live in this place and it's close to, I'm like, wait, are you Canadian?
Yeah. I was describing Victoria like I would to someone who has no idea, and you're like, yeah, I've been there. I'm like, oh,
yeah.
Cool.
And
and
if you're an American listening and this offends you, then I want you to tell me what the capital of Canada is without Googling it quickly.
Yes. And like, honestly, like I am also shameful. Like when anyone says like I'm from the Midwest of like in the US, I'm like, ugh, that could be fucking anywhere.
Oh yeah. Oh, I don't know my American geography. I'm not saying I know anything about anything. Yeah. I just know about the actual place I live in.
Like if someone was like pointing out Chicago on a map,
no,
I actually don't think I could.
No, it's north somewhere. It's cold in Chicago. Yeah. So yeah, exactly. But also there's this certain way about Canadians. There's this way of being nice, and it's such a generalization, but it's so true. Like we were texting before and I'm like, I'm so sorry I called you. And you were like, I'm so sorry I didn't answer. And we're like, sorry. Like, could this be more Canadian?
Literally, I'm like, I'm so sorry. I don't want to be rude to the cashier, like, because I could never like slight her.
Yeah, it's just how we roll.
Totally, 100%. Even like arranging this, I feel like it was like, yeah, many apologies were spoken. None of us were doing anything bad.
Never. I was just so happy to be in touch with you. And yeah, you've been walking me through like saving like years off my life of stress from like setting up my podcast and like so patiently walking me through it. So yeah, just couldn't be happier to be here.
Good. I'm so glad. What got you into making TikToks?
For years, I joke to my friends that I have this blog called justemily.com. And it's whenever I'm rambling about pop culture stuff, most of them are not super interested in it, but I just can't stop talking about it. So I'll be like, we're back with justemily.com. Or I'll just start talking like an influencer. I'll be like, today guys, we're going to talk about my favorite primer. And like that's been the gag for like years and years. And I kind of just wanted to give them a break.
Yeah, you're like, I need to talk to someone else.
Yeah, because they saw my TikToks and they were like, this is you. Like, whether we know who you're even talking about, like we'll be hanging out and they'll be like, not even interested in celebrities. I'm like, I'm sorry, I just need to talk about Khloe Kardashian for a minute. And I just need to get this off my chest. And I'm like, they've been very patient, but I need to just find another outlet. So I'll just talk to my 2 followers on the internet, and then it's kind of turned into this.
And now it's 200 and counting, 200,000 and counting. But I feel the same way. And like, again, same kind of vibe. Just a lot of people, we'd be watching TV and people would be like, oh, who's that actor? And I'd be like, oh, it's this person. They've been in this, and this. They're married. They're like divorced. They have these kids and stuff.
I know. And then sometimes people are like, what's your background? Like, how do you know all this? I'm like, mental illness. Like, I don't know. I don't know. I just sit on my couch and I get into a wormhole that I can't get out of for days, like looking up the same. Yes. I just want to get to the bottom of things. And it's kind of like the secret language, like knowing about pop culture. It's like, you're either kind of in that world or not. I mean, you can be peripherally, but for the people who really know, we can just get into it. And it's like, oh, did you see the Kardashian like Photoshop thing? Of course I did. You know, and we all have our thoughts about it.
That's so true. And I just feel like it covers so much that you could really talk to anyone about it. Like, I just feel like sometimes I can hold conversations with people through pop culture knowledge that, like, even if it's something that I don't normally like watch, like for example, it was the Harry Potter 20th reunion.
Yes, I watched.
Special. Yes, I did not. But I could still have like probably a 20-minute conversation with you about it. Just because I didn't watch it, but like just because it's so ingrained on like social media and stuff that you pick up like just so much more information, I guess.
Yeah, it's funny because I don't believe in guilty pleasures. Like, I just think we like what we like and there's no reason to be guilty, but watching that felt a little guilty pleasure. Like, yeah. And then I ended up crying my eyes out. Like, they did this like reel of all the actors they lost. They did like Alan Rickman and all the like Snape, and I was just like a baby. Like,
I would have teared up at that.
We grew up with it. And so, you know, for whatever has transpired since, like the J.K. Rowling of it all, it's like, it's still like we and Harry Potter were the same age.
Totally.
We all grew up in our minds. We were in Hogwarts. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I think that the first Harry Potter book was my first like novel in grade 3 or 4.
Oh, wow.
That I read.
Yeah.
Like, as just like, because it was like, oh, you're at an age where you should be reading a novel. This is like the most popular one. Here you go.
I was trying to be like cool. I was like, I'm like growing up and I'm going to be a teenager soon. And I don't care about books about wizards. Like, that's like way below me. And then it took off. And
you're
then,
like, I'm obsessed.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, of course.
I love that. We have honestly like a jam-packed episode today.
We do.
And I can't wait to get into it. We're going to talk about Kim versus Kanye. I'm going to start billing it as that because it really does seem like a versus thing now, like who can one-up each other in the press. We're going to talk about Olivia Rodrigo and Adam Faze, ? I didn't look up how to pronounce his last name. The Golden Globes, which aired today, we're recording on the 9th, aired in quotation marks. And then we have a This Week in Petty Stories story to wrap up. So let's get into it. Last week on RTBP, we talked about Kim photoshopping True's face over Stormi's face at Disneyland. And honestly, Kara, my guest, and I were perplexed. I don't think we came up with one, not tangible, but like one possible solution. Everything was out of the realm of possibility.
Yeah.
What do you think happened with those photos?
Okay. I'm just gonna need to like center myself.
Yes.
I'm trying to gather myself because there's just so much going through my mind. Even the whole Kim versus Kanye, like that juxtaposition is it's well said to kind of put it in that way, because I do think that's how they are thinking of it, both personally and in the press. But as for just the incident of like Kim photoshopping True's face onto Stormi, what I'm starting to actually wonder is like they're aware of everything that we are aware of. They're aware of how they're being perceived and the way that they're being analyzed. And they know that things are shifting. Now with TikTok, there's all these like detectives looking at their nails, matching things up, finding out they're lying to us about when this was posted because this little corner of a, magazine appeared like last year. Like they know that we know that. And I'm genuinely wondering if they're kind of feeding us these bizarre out of left field kind of moments for us to like stand back and be like, what the fuck? Like what is this? Like this is so baffling. They're being so weird. And it gives us something to talk about because someone photoshopping one niece's head onto another niece's head and posting it is like the most bizarre non-human behavior. Like when people are like, sometimes I'll talk about them online, people are like, they're just living, like leave them alone. Like I'm like, they're
no.
I'm like, no. Everything is up for discussion. They're selling us products, which are themselves, which is true to all celebrities, but they're not even people anymore. They're like literally cyborgs. Like I picture Kim going to sleep at night, just like, those like pads that like charge phones where you just put the phone on the pad. Like I just picture her like curling up on a little thing, like charging. Oh my God. They don't work the way we do. So I'm wondering if they're purposefully doing these things because it distracts us from actual issues going on.
News.
Yeah.
Like I totally agree that I think the most logical thing would be distraction because of the paternity stuff with Chloe and Tristan. The Astroworld stuff is like, I feel like still kind of plaguing Kylie and
it's plaguing the whole Hulu show. It's casting a shadow over the whole Hulu show because even if like already word is starting to die down about Astroworld, unfortunately, even though it didn't happen that long ago, but the fact is that they were filming their show while that happened. So they're going to have to find a way to work that into the narrative. And I think they're going to release the show a little later than they originally intended because now they have to figure out how to weave in the narrative of Travis Scott. But Maya on TikTok, like her handle is, I think, like Maya mitochondrial membrane. Like she's just brilliant. She pointed out that the same day that this Photoshop photo appeared, then later that day, Travis Scott made his return to Instagram. Kylie commented, then they released the trailer for their show. So that was all planned. So what was the plan? I don't know. Get us talking. We're talking about it now.
Yeah, it's like weeks later and I'm still talking about it. So it works. Like I get that. It's interesting also you talked about internet sleuths, which I famously don't call myself a sleuth. I just reap all of the all the rewards. Like I just get to consume all of the content that the internet sleuths
me too.
dig up. So like God bless, they are doing the Lord's work.
Oh, same. I'm not smart enough to match up someone's nails from one post versus 6 months ago. No,
nor am I. Like I'm like, do I even have the time for that? The answer is yes, but like I'll pretend that I don't.
For me, am I intelligent enough? No, but and they know that even if we're not coming up with those posts are going viral and we're seeing them. So now they know like that's how the media is shifting. And that's how we're now relating to media, is like with this intense scrutiny and skepticism.
But do you think so? I used to, this is a throwback, but I feel like in the early teens of Keeping Up the Kardashians, so like maybe say season 11 to 14, there was a Jezebel series. It was called, I think, Kardashian. I can't remember.
I know what you're talking about. It was something like Kardashian content with a K or something, or like
yes,
it was something like Kardashian conspiracy with
continuity. No,
continuity errors.
Yes. Oh my God. Okay. Yes. Jezebel had a series called Kardashian Continuity Errors. I will put them in the show notes. But it was this amazing series where it was probably like the seedlings of internet sleuthing.
Yeah,
but
it was ahead of its
this
time.
One author, 100%. And I was like eating it up. It was like probably like 2013 or something like that.
Yeah.
And an author would just go through the episodes and be like, just like we talked about, Kylie is wearing black nail polish here, but in the conversation that she's having with her mom, but you can see she posted this Instagram on April 30th. Yeah. So we know that this happened then, but they're posing like it happened in December or whatever. So it was basically just like what we do now, but again, like 10 years ago. And so my question for you is like, they obviously know that this is happening. Do you think that they're nervous about Hulu just because they can't get away with, because I guess my point with bringing up the Continuity Errors series was just that didn't get tons of traction. And I don't think people are like, oh yeah, it's edited, and like some things might be, not acted out twice, but like you might have to reshoot some things just because that's how you make reality TV. But at this point, you really can't get away with murder, which they basically were doing.
Well, they literally have, I mean, if we're going to really go, they've built their name off of murder and like sex, drugs, and murder, basically. Like,
yeah.
But like, I'm bringing that up because it's like, if Kris Jenner has always been playing chess, not checkers. And so even if everyone is now analyzing every detail, going over it with a fine tooth comb, she's then going to factor that into the way that they present facts to people. Like, yeah, because it's not a coincidence that Kim just decided to post this like weird niece photoshopped photo, and then Travis Scott just suddenly made his like appearance back on social media 2 months later, and then suddenly just so happened like that was all planned out. And I don't know what that conversation was. I kind of picture it like the Oval Office in Chris's like yes, office, same, like, and her same. Just like,
but more important.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah, and more like cutthroat.
Yes, like actually more brutal. Like,
yeah, like I definitely think she probably gets more done than Joe Biden.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. For better or for worse, I don't know.
Yeah. Who's to say? Yeah. But so I don't know what those conversations are, but I know that she's factoring all that in. And so like that's why I'm wondering if they're just giving us these like bizarre one-offs that are sort of like almost impossible to interpret. It's like throwing us like a distraction, because then if we're talking about this weird Photoshop thing, then we're not talking about Astroworld. If we're talking about like what Kim and Pete were up to this week, then we aren't talking about that, like.
Which brings us to like the next thing that we wanted to chat about, because I am having so many questions now about the Pete and Kim trip in the Bahamas.
Let's talk about it.
There's like a few weird things. Like, for example, they were seen getting off a plane. Kim's in like a black bodysuit, ripped jeans. Pete is in like the most bizarre Pete Davidson. Yeah, I am actually rolling my eyes, and everyone knows on this pod that I love Pete Davidson, but like it was hard to look at. And they were photographed getting off a plane in the Bahamas by a company called Backgrid, which I want to get your perspective on because I actually have never talked about Backgrid on the podcast. Mm-hmm. But then they leave and they're back in LA like literally the next day, but they deboard the plane or whatever the fuck you do getting off a plane in the same clothes. So what happened? Did they just wear the same clothes for 24 hours?
Well, okay. There is nothing in this world and no one that could convince me that they are really dating, like just the goodness of their hearts. And so I think, I don't know, like it is one big eye roll to me, kind of whatever they do, because to me, it feels like lazy PR, but at the same time, everyone is talking about it. So maybe it's not lazy because hey, it's working and everyone is talking about them going to the Bahamas. For them to do this big photo op getting on the plane, then her posting a photo from a year ago of her it looking like a beach photo, and then them getting off. It's like, give me a break. I mean, Kim is famous for like after her robbery saying like she doesn't post things in real time. And when have we seen her ever getting on a plane? Like since or like ever or since the robbery? Like remember when she did that like quarantine? We went on, me and my closest family went on this island to get away from it all. We didn't see any of them get on any plane. Like when they don't want to be seen, they don't. And they were just like all like gallivanting on and like full paparazzi and like Backgrid is so yeah, that I can speak to that. But like it was just one big silly photo op to me. And I don't know. I guess it worked because here we are being like, what's up with the Bahama trip? But yeah, I don't think they were going on a romantic couples trip by any means.
Neither do I. Like there is always like a 1%, like I always save the 1% chance that I'm wrong just to keep an open mind, but there is like a literally 99% chance that they are not a real couple. Like it's getting faker by the second, honestly.
Well, my like 1% or more like 5%, 10% is like maybe they're actually sleeping together for real, like but in the way that it's like, but in the way that like you would have, the way I see it is like you could have people on a movie set that they're told to be a couple for the movie, and then they might like actually hook up in real life, but like that would be how it would come about, which doesn't make it not real, but it also doesn't mean that their characters in the movie are real, and what we're seeing is the character version of them, putting on this big show for us. And I don't know, like when I post about it, like every time people are like, oh my God, poor Pete, he's being played, he's being manipulated. And I'm like, I really need to give me a break, because obviously they've all sat down and talked about this, and he's got his projects.
Totally. Like he reaps the benefits just as much as she does. Especially, I feel like to have such a girlfriend that seems so, she's the it girl. Has always been the it girl and probably will always be the it girl. So I like, there's no way that he's not seeing all of the benefits of this. Like that's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah. And something that I've been thinking about lately is on Beyond the Blinds, when they were talking about blinds to do with the Kardashians, and they were like, oh, there was a reason why Chris Humphries said their marriage was a fraud. Like, and it wasn't just because of the 72 days thing. Like it's because that's basically, maybe besides Kanye, like every relationship she's ever had. And like Nick Lachey way back in the day said that she would call paparazzi every date they had, and they'd be waiting for them outside the movie theater. Like that's been her thing, way before she was a household name.
Yeah. I saw on TikTok that someone was saying that maybe Reggie Bush was like her only like true boyfriend, or like the one that she was like most hung up on. And I was like, interesting. Because sometimes I think about like, okay, yeah, so she photoshopped True's face on Stormi's face. She's in a fake relationship and they like went to the Bahamas and it was fake. Then I'm like, but I'm still so enjoying this.
Yeah, of course. In the same way that I was talking about, like how when you're watching actors and it's not real, but you're still able to suspend your disbelief. It's the same with like if you're watching a cheesy rom-com and it's really predictable and the ending, you can still enjoy it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they're putting a show. Of course, like I'm always watching to see their next move, and I'm also curious to see how long they're going to string us along with this.
Yeah, who knows? I feel like they know that it has to be like pretty substantial for us to again believe it's like sincerity. So yeah. I think we're in for another like, I don't know, 6 months of this.
6 months to a year. I know, I'm starting to think like they're really just going to dig in as long as whatever their whole like Hulu plan is. I wonder too if it's like predicated on like how the show's ratings will be, and like if the ratings aren't as good as they want, if they'll have to like throw in some extra stunts. Like
we talked about how the pictures were taken by Backgrid. Do you want to explain to the listeners who have like never heard about what Backgrid is?
Okay, I would. I've been saying a lot of things about Backgrid, and now I want to add an addendum onto that. Okay, so basically Backgrid is this agency where it's sort of like fake paparazzi, and it used to be that celebrities call them and they show up and they take candid, in quotes, photos. And that was like basically 100% of the time when you see credited by Backgrid, it's like the celebrities calling them. And it's interesting too, because like I've been talking about it and then people have gone to their website and they're like, oh, but it's really hard to like navigate their website. I'm like, yeah, they're not going to be like, our clients are Kim Kardashian and blah, blah, blah. Like, no, but when you start to look for where you can find them, just literally look at every single celebrity photo on like Just Jared or like E! News, whatever. It's credited by Backgrid. But the thing that I've been meaning to kind of clear up with like myself and anyone who I've been like preaching about Backgrid to is that they become so popular that now sometimes they actually are real paparazzi.
Right.
Occasionally, not in the case of the Kim Bahama getting on the jet photos, but
yes.
And not when it's like Shawn Mendes meditating on a crowded beach. I don't know if you saw those.
Of course I did. Like those came out 3 hours ago, but yes, I have seen them. Like,
yeah. Hot off the press.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So things like that are really obvious. Yeah. And generally most of the time it's the celebrities calling them, but now they've become big enough that sometimes it's actually like a candid photo.
Fascinating. It's so interesting.
But even in the sense of like it being, even when it is candid, to me, it's not even completely candid because celebrities know where paparazzi is going to be. And
yep,
for the people that have like renounced fame and moved to like Iowa, they know they're not going to be photographed. And for people getting Starbucks on like, you know, in the middle of Hollywood, they know they'll be photographed. So,
which, speak of the devil, Julia Fox and Kanye West were paparazzi'd all weekend. They were in New York. I don't even know where to dive in because this is such an interesting story. So they went to a Broadway show. He styled her in an outfit, head to toe Balenciaga. They take pictures at Carbone, which is like,
yeah,
exactly what you're talking about. The restaurant that they know paparazzi just like hangs outside of, waiting there. They're just getting paparazzi'd the whole weekend. She also like discusses it with, I think, Page Six.
Yeah.
Which is so weird. Like giving direct quotes
yep.
to like this news source. It's just super, super, super weird. What are your thoughts on all of this?
Okay. Once again, have to center myself. So many layers, so much to say. Okay, so when you first posited this as like Kim versus Kanye, it's like what the way I picture it is like on one side you have Chris in the Oval Office firing orders to like her little mercenaries and like telling them what the like 6-month plan is and plan A, B, C, and they just like kind of have to like go along with it, or I don't know, like maybe they have some say, but like she's running the show. Then on the other side, you have Kanye, where it's like, could you picture anyone telling Kanye what to do? Like,
no, he's the opposite of them.
No, you had him going into Trump's office and lecturing him for 15 minutes, like the guy who won't shut up, and no one can control him. And so it's not any sort of normal situation when either party is involved, but when it's the Kardashians, you know it's not normal because it's extremely calculated. When it's Kanye, it's like we're not on his level. Like he doesn't think in a linear way like us peasants, you know, like, and so for him, like it's almost like it could be real in the sense that to him I could see romance being this performance art piece.
Absolutely.
Because Julia Fox is a performance artist.
Yes. That was something that was really interesting to me, is like, because everyone's like, who is she and stuff like that. And why I guess she's like maybe not as mainstream is the stuff that she does isn't mainstream.
I actually saw a photo of her that she did as a performance piece where she was like at a farm drinking milk directly from a cow's udder. Like she is yeah, but like just to say it's sort of like, I don't know, she's like a bit of a pop culture like Marina Abramovic. Like I don't know if that's like insulting to like the like art fans here, but like and I love Marina Abramovic, but like she really like goes there and is okay with really pushing the boundaries in terms of performance art. And so for Kanye, to me, this is like what he's doing is a big performance art piece with Julia Fox. But at the same time, like I could see that being love to him. You know? That's
a really good point, because we saw it happen with Amber Rose and then Kim, like literally play by play, which I'm like, is it just that's like his playbook of like wooing women, Which, like,
Yeah.
some women probably really like, again, like a closet full of Balenciaga, like,
Yeah.
hasn't hit the streets clothing, like, amazing.
Even Kim, who's like known for like extravagance and everything being so over the top, even she said, you know, that one of the main reasons they divorced is because she had all the big extravagant things, but at the end of the day didn't have someone to watch TV with. And that's, and like Kanye's not going to go for ice cream for his second date. He's going to buy
Yes.
you a hotel room full of Balenciaga outfits and do an interview with Interview Magazine.
That was so weird.
Okay, so this just came out 2 days ago, but I just heard of it now. They just announced a Balenciaga Gap collaboration. So
That's my next question for you. Was this a big advertisement for Balenciaga and therefore Kanye West? Because he, and like, this is the genius in him. I don't love to give him too much credit, but I will give him credit for this. He started to utilize the paparazzi to sell Yeezy years ago. He would dress Kim up and go to paparazzi spots. So his stuff was photographed in like a really nice way, basically for free. Like, it was so genius. So do you think that he's just kind of doing that again?
yeah. Oh yeah. I think he's doing that again. But like in all of this, in all of the like his own version of PR, like advertisement for, you know, Gap, which he's involved with, and Balenciaga, I could also see along with that him being like, and this is who like this is who I'm dating. This is a casual fling. We go out,
Yeah.
we push our we push my new like Balenciaga Gap line. And you know, I've got someone whose look fits my brand aesthetic.
It's so
But I
fascinating.
also do wonder too if he's trying to get back at Kim.
So that's my number one thought right now is what is the current circumstance? Because they had like a public divorce and then she was at his Donda shows in a white wedding dress and watching all of them.
Yeah.
And then she files to be legally single from him. And then he buys a house next to her. And then she's seen with Pete. And then he's seen with Julia. Like, it just seems like a battle of power. And like, what is up? Like, are they going to get back together? Is this just because they are both extremely powerful people and they're like being petty? Like, what is it?
Well, okay. I mean, if you think about like if two normal people were getting divorced, like let's say your best friend was getting divorced, and even in the best of circumstances, they have 4 kids together. I'm talking about like if a normal couple had like 4 kids together in a house, whatever, and had to disentangle that whole life together. And let's say like you were the friend to like listen in and like hear them venting about it. There would be these like messy moments. Even if everyone was trying to be civil and whatever, there would be like this, like, oh my God, they did this thing. This pissed me off. And oh, now they're already dating someone else. Like there would be these really like uncomfortable moments that would come up. And so even with like the orchestration of everything and Kanye being kind of unhinged and Kim being like Kim, there are also just people going through a slightly messy divorce and acting out, except instead of like, I think this person and their like neighbor, you know, might be hooking up. Now it's like, oh, it's actually like millions of dollars and mansions and models, but it's sort of like a parallel universe to what probably your average divorce might look like.
You're right. Like, instead of text messages being like, oh, is blah, blah, blah back on Tinder or whatever. It's just Jared and
exactly.
blind items
or like,
and shit.
oh, I told them to email over me these documents and they have been ignoring me, you know, like that kind of boring stuff, but that actually really pisses people off. I think there has to be some element of that also just at play because they were together for 10 years and they do have kids and mansions and all this stuff that it's probably stressful. So they're also probably acting like kids on some level. Like I'm sure Kim is just loving this whole parading around with Pete, who's known as this like ladies man, and getting all this press for that.
That is like the 1%. Is like sometimes I'm like, the person you would want to date after dating someone as serious and like difficult as Kanye West is someone like Pete Davidson.
Yeah, and even if you're in a PR relationship, you still have to spend time with that person.
Yeah, you still have to like them.
Yeah, or you have to be a good actor, or they have to be like decent enough. Or if you're paired together, and you know, I always use the coworker analogy, like some coworkers you can just tolerate, or some people they're fine at work, and then you don't need it to be anything beyond that. But like also, I think you know, she's a Libra. She likes to show off. She's a petty queen herself, you know, and yeah, and Pete's just, yeah, he's the absolute antithesis to Kanye West. Like, I don't know where I saw someone talking about this, but they were talking about his appeal. Was it on your podcast?
It literally probably was.
It could have, no, it, like, I'm getting, it's all like bleeding together, but it was something about how like Pete is not normal in that he's a big celebrity, but he talks about it the way.
Yes,
yeah, was
yes.
it you saying that?
I think so.
Yeah,
I think
but
so. Yes.
like, no, that's the best way to summarize the whole thing, is like he is just like, he's a relatable guy.
And like, yeah, it would just be easy to talk to him because he does seem just so normal and so, again, not like a celebrity like Kanye is.
I agree. And like, just Kanye's like so serious and such like grand gestures, and then you have like Ariana Grande saying that when Pete Davidson proposed to her, they were like, he was like smoking a joint in bed and just being like, wow, yeah, you want to get married?
Yes, but that's what I think about. And like, again, that's like what she said she wanted, because like I think about their Staten Island date. Not that flying to the Bahamas on like a private jet is low key, but like I think of them going to that dingy ass theater in Staten Island, and I was like, that's what you wanted, Kim. So you wanted the little moments. Like, there you go.
Yeah. But to the person that doesn't have a normal life in any way, and everything is going to the Oscars, going to this, going to that, going to a dingy Staten Island movie theater would be like going to like on this wild experience. Like, if that's the one, it's like Princess Jasmine like coming down from the palace and like pretending to be like a normal person, be like, oh my god, I'm in the market, and how does money work? And like, you know.
Oh my god, that's such a good analogy, also because of all of the Princess Jasmine motifs and costumes that Kim's worn over the years.
Right,
like,
actually,
how perfect.
Subconsciously, that's probably why
she's literally her. Like,
she's the only person, or one of the only people, who lives such an over-the-top life that going to a dingy theater would be like this reverse, like, oh my god, this is the wildest thing ever. Like, this is crazy.
Totally.
They went to Disneyland and went to Splash Mountain, you know. They're just,
no, they went to Knott's Berry Farm, which is like the worst version of Disneyland.
Like, oh my god, you guys, living like normal people is so fun sometimes.
Yes. God, Kim. But it really came full circle when everyone went wild over Julia Fox and Pete Davidson doing a photo shoot together. Celebrities are the small town where everyone knows everyone.
Yeah. And they're all a bunch of theater kids. They're all a bunch of nerdy theater kids at heart, putting on a show and all dating each other and all having these weird, no, it is. Yeah, it's just, you always hear it's a small town.
It's so weird. So yeah, just seeing all of those pictures and like people just putting it all together. I don't think that, like, again, that was like intentional at all, but it's just we're in hell.
But in the same way that like high school was kind of hellish, the gossip was still fun. Like, the gossip was
yes. We're in hell, but I'm like enjoying it.
Yeah. We're warming ourselves by the fires of hell.
Absolutely.
And as long as the gossip wasn't directed at you, you're like, whoa, that happened, crazy.
Yes, absolutely. The next story we wanted to talk about, Olivia Rodrigo and Adam Faze. Again, I feel like he is in some type of like music production or something. I looked it up at one point in my life, but they've been dating since July 2021. So like 6 or 7 months. And then it's been like radio silence, and people are saying that they possibly broke up. Were you rooting for this couple?
I love Sour. I've been blasting it all year. I love Olivia Rodrigo. But for me, when I hear of an 18-year-old celebrity, whatever, and their dating life, it's like white noise to me, where I'm just like, that's nice. Like, as long as there's not something traumatic happening to them, like, that's nice. And like, I know in theory some people start dating someone in their teens and they stay together. Technically, I know that's true, but my mind can't process it, and I don't really know people like that. So I'm just like, oh, that's nice. And you'll probably be, split up and soon, or in a year or two, or whatever. Like, in the same way that when I listen to Sour and I listen to like the fresh, like her going through this like first breakup and this thought of like, I'm never gonna be okay. I'm like, so cute and incredible music, but I'm like, you'll be fine, sweetie. Like,
yes, that's such a good point, because it's like, yeah, especially you, Olivia, you're like gorgeous, rich, extremely talented, like, girl, you're gonna bounce back.
And also the person that broke up with you has like a floundering career, and like the girl he chose tried to have a rebuttal song and it's terrible, like, and you have the #1 album of like all time whatever. Yeah, like
Literally like 8 Grammy nominations or whatever, like, you're good.
But we all got to relive that through her. Like, I felt like warm and nostalgic remembering my first teenage breakup and be like, I'm never gonna be okay. And like something about it was so fun to like be back in that moment.
Totally. Well, I feel like that's why everyone loves Taylor Swift so much, which is like obviously one of Olivia Rodrigo's hugest inspirations, because it brings you back to that universal feeling of like heartbreak or whatever you think is heartbreak in high school.
No, totally. And it's funny that we were talking about Harry Potter before, because I saw this video last year. I wish I could remember. It was like, here's Taylor Swift and all of her Horcruxes. And it was all these different objects, but one of them was Olivia Rodrigo. And I always think of that as like their relationship of like, here's this like precious gem that she had, and now they're maybe like not friends or something.
Yeah, what is going on with that? Because like, so Olivia did like a lot of press for Taylor's re-recordings of Speak Now.
Yeah.
And they've posted pictures together. They've been like seen on red carpets together, etc. She gave credit to Taylor on the song One Step Forward, Three Steps Back, because it uses the melody from New Year's Day.
Yeah.
But that was it. And then a few months later, Taylor also got credit for Deja Vu because of like the yelling verse or bridge or whatever that's called is similar to Cruel Summer.
Mm-hmm.
But and like Taylor was sending her gifts at one point, like all of this stuff. And then Red came out, the re-recordings, again, radio silence on Olivia's end. Do you think that she's kind of like pissed that Taylor got like additional credit for like really honestly doing
nothing,
not much?
Well, when I first heard about the like controversy surrounding it, I was like, oh well, whatever, that happens all the time, that even if you have a somewhat similar melody, you have to credit them, like that's just normal stuff. So when I think about One Step Forward, Three Steps Back, that sounds like New Year's Day. Like if you played it, it is. And she said it, and she's like, it's inspired by Taylor Swift, and it was like they talked about it before, like that is very like, that seems like it makes sense. But then I think about Deja Vu, and that is not Cruel Summer. Like it just isn't. And that's where I think actually it's kind of messed up, because I was looking at the percentages of how much money they were getting, and it was something like 50%. It was like Taylor got like 30, Jack Antonoff got a certain percentage, St. Vincent got like 17% of the royalties of Deja Vu. And because it is somewhat reminiscent of Cruel Summer, and it's like, no one's inventing the wheel. Music is constantly recycled, and at that point it's like, she's a teenager and you have infinite wealth, Taylor, if you're listening.
Yes, infinite. Yeah, Taylor,
if you're listening, we need to talk. Actually, you've probably seen my videos and hate me even though I'm a Swiftie. But yeah, no, I think it's actually kind of messed up. And then you could say, oh well, that's how it works in the music industry, you have to. But Taylor Swift is literally like, her whole thing is, I make up my own rules and I empower artists, and when I don't like something, I literally go to Spotify and I'm like, I'm taking all my music away. So it's like, she could, I'm sure, call the shots and be like, actually no, like just keep the music, little 18-year-old Olivia with your first album.
Yeah, like invested into your tour or whatever.
Or just keep, like, I mean, not Olivia Rodrigo's they're both doing fine for money, but just symbolically, it's like, I don't know, it just doesn't feel right to me. And then I think about Taylor Swift, and like, she doesn't have a good history with friendship. Just overall, there's something, like, I'm not friends with her, so I don't know what goes on, but she's written songs about it, about how like she's lost so many friends and it's difficult to be friends with her. And
yeah, that's like really interesting, because like sometimes I'm like, is it just hard to maintain friendships being a celebrity? Just because like different schedules or different priorities or whatnot, or jealousy or whatever. So
Yeah.
I'm like, is that her? And then I also think of like, I feel like, again, this is like a conspiracy theory, but sometimes I'm like, also I feel like some of her gal pals were actual relationships, like romantic relationships.
I have a two-part Taylor Carly
Oh,
Kloss
thank God.
Taylor Swift episode that I've already recorded for the Patreon that will be coming out.
Perfect. I'll be your first download, like, for sure.
I'm a big
like,
Taylor truther.
Good, good. So I'm like, her friendships, like, or did they just break up? Sometimes I think about her, like, also, because I am like a diehard Taylor Swift. Like, I'm not the die hardest, but I like, I'm definitely up there. But like, sometimes I think like she can't have criticism said about her. So like, even right now, I feel like evil talking like this is like turned into like, I feel bad for some reason.
And actually, it's funny you say that because that's me and my friend Sam, like my co-host for the podcast Patreon. We were just gonna record one Taylor episode, and then we thought about it and we started talking. We're like, we actually came down too hard on her. We're gonna come back with a more compassionate lens and talk about some more details. I've been her top 1% listeners on Spotify 2 years running. Like
Nice.
I am a very obsessive listener, but I also am critical of her in the same way that I would expect people to point out, like in my life, if I'm acting a little unhinged. And like, I don't know her personal life, but I do get the impression, like, I think she's a genius, but I genuinely don't think she's chill at all or like all that cool. And like, that's part of her earnest charm. But it's like also just like the comedian Heather McMahon was on this podcast talking to Kate Kennedy, Be There in Five, was like a huge Swiftie. And I remember like Heather McMahon being like, I like Taylor Swift, but I kind of just want her to smoke a joint. I just want to smoke a joint with her and just say, what, just relax. And it's like, I'm a big Swiftie, but I too would like her to just smoke a joint and just relax.
You're right. She would have absolutely extremely high standards for any romantic relationship or friendship. And I feel like she has high expectations of her fans, which is probably why I feel like this. But like, you're right. She's not easy going by any stretch of the word, which it's like, I'm not either per se. So like, whatever.
And that's the thing too. Like, I don't want to project my own stuff onto her, but when I see her just taking things so seriously, like when I think Netflix tweeted something out about how many people she's dated, she was like, how dare you, like, this is slut shaming. And I wanted her to be like, just own it. You dated a lot of A-listers and that's amazing. And that's actually something you could be like, yeah, I did. Like, that's great. She's obviously allowed to feel how she wants to feel, but it's just in those moments when she's going to war, I want her to just like be like, you know what, if you just had a little laugh, it would kind of diffuse the situation. It's not always everyone against you. Netflix probably wasn't trying to slut shame you, even though that joke isn't in the best of taste.
So what do you think happened with Olivia? Do you think it is just like a kind of not business deal gone wrong, but like business turned sour, you could say?
I think that I would give my pinky toe to know about all of these friendships and where they currently stand in her life. And if they had falling outs, I would like to know exactly what happened. I want to know what's up with Lord. I want to know what's up with like Lena Dunham. Like, I want to know how all of these have played out over the years because I don't know.
Well, she was at Lena Dunham's wedding.
Yeah. What's up with that?
Yeah, I was like, okay, I guess you guys have talked over the last 8 years. Like, what the fuck? It's so random.
It is so random. I'm sure she's had falling outs, but I just don't know who and what. We know she's friends with Blake Lively and that's kind of about it. And now I guess Lena Dunham because she was at her wedding. We don't know the status of anyone else.
Yeah. And Selena, she's still friends with Selena.
Right. And Selena, they make TikToks. Yeah, no, that's true. No, that's true. But that's it. And there was a whole squad. And I want to know how all of that, like even Cara Delevingne, what's up with that? Like, I just want to know every friendship and what their standing is, if they had a fight, like falling out, what it was, whose
fault it was. Yeah, absolutely. Me too. Ugh. One day, again, waiting for the tell-all Taylor.
As much as I do think she's a songwriting genius, I do think her kind of being self-critical doesn't really happen as much or in the way that I would like to, but in the song like The Archer, I felt like it really like painted a picture for me.
Yes, The Archer, and then the other one that I was thinking about is the one that's like, could I give you everything?
Would it be enough if I could never give you peace?
Yes, peace. Yes, thank you.
Not that I'm obsessed or anything.
Yeah, not that I listen to folklore on my like depression walk every day. Like,
yeah, now I've switched to Evermore. I'm like late to the game.
yes. I recently switched to Evermore too. That's so funny.
Gotta switch it up.
Yeah. Oh my God, exact same. Okay, looping back to Olivia though, if she is single, who could you see her dating next? Also, I want to say, I think this was like underreported in this episode.
What?
Meaning we haven't talked about it. Just that she was dating like a 24-year-old and she was 18.
Right. I guess I had a lot of sketchy relationships when I was 18. So like, I'm like, go off, Olivia. Like, I mean, now that she is 18, like, I don't want her to be like taken advantage of and whatever, but like, I think about the idiot parade that I dated at that age, and I'm like, whatever she's doing will be character building, and I hope like,
oh my God,
like I don't hope for anything for her but to just like have fun and enjoy her youth. And so it's again like it's the same thing of who I want her to date as when I think about who she's dating now. I'm just like, great, until you're like 25, just do whatever. Maybe don't date like Lil Xan or something, but like
oh my God,
one of the Paul brothers, you know, like don't go that level.
she was on Bizarredvark with
what?
Logan, I think. Her Disney Channel show.
Oh, no, they need to stay away from her. I take it back. She needs to find a good man. Someone will treat her right.
It's 0% on her. Adam though, I'm like, die in a ditch. Like,
yeah. Oh yeah. I couldn't like, I tried to do research on him for this episode and I just saw his face and I try to not like get down on people's appearance too much, but he looks sketchy. Like something's not right. Like he looks very suspect to me. And
the vibes are off.
The vibes are off. And Olivia Rodrigo looks like a Disney princess. Once again, I don't know if that's a rite of passage or if that's just me being dysfunctional that like people are supposed to date. Like
that's so
people
funny.
are not worthy of them at 18. But I'm like, maybe it's all part of the whole
that's
gig.
So funny.
Part of growing up.
Because like even I was gonna be like, oh, I could see her with like Timothy Chalamet. Then I'm like, he's probably 30.
Like, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, no, like my mind is a blank. I'm like, I don't even know. Like I'm not even super up to date with the younger celebs unless they're like prolific like Olivia Rodrigo. I don't really know. I'm not super familiar. Or unless it's like Zendaya. I'm like, I don't know, you know, who they really are. The youth.
I think she should date someone like, do you know Emma Chamberlain? Yes. She dates a musician who's like just like a, you know, like a small indie like artist. And I'm like, that's who you should date.
Yeah.
Find one of those.
I can see that. Funny. Speaking of Heather McMahon, she always says this about her own relationship. She always says her rule for herself is there can only be one headshot per relationship.
Yes.
And she's like, that's why I'm dating a guy who's like a contractor or business, whatever. And I know that it's kind of different for celebrities, especially like they're famous and they probably want someone who like understands that world. But I think it probably would be better in my imagination for them to date someone who's not famous.
Absolutely.
Like even like whoever Ariana Grande's husband is.
Yes. The real estate agent.
Random real estate agent. Like, sure.
Yeah. Could I think of his name right now? No. But that's probably a good thing.
Pete Davidson, but ordered what you got when you ordered it. Like ordered online versus what you got.
Literally.
Yeah.
Literally. He's
that
not
guy.
like a Wish website guy. Absolutely. Oh goodness. Well, I cannot wait to see who she dates next because I can't really picture her with anybody, but they have to be special.
I mean, selfishly, like I'm only invested in her dating life as far as like the great music
that's gonna come from it. Yeah,
I do think that it's important when you're younger to just kind of like not be so serious too about relationships and just like you learn your lessons, you get your heart broken, it's all seems so real at the time you get older and you're like, Who? What?
It'll be all documented on Sweet or whatever her next album is. That's the rumored name. Yes.
That's great. I love that. It's like a music industry dad joke. Or like maybe it's real. I don't know.
I don't know. I actually don't know. But yeah, she was giving out like Sour Patch Kids at like some of her launch parties and stuff like that. And on Sour Patch Kids it says like sweet and sour on the bag. So people were thinking maybe her sophomore album is named Sweet.
Okay, a little like sweetener adjacent.
Yeah.
Ariana Grande has not patented the word sweet.
Sweet.
Like,
yeah.
Yeah. So cool. Yeah, I'm here for whatever she's putting out.
God, I could break that to you on air.
I love it. I'm here for it.
So the last story we wanted to talk about was the Golden Globes, which is actually, I feel like, really ironic because we both wanted to actually talk about the Golden Globes on this episode.
I know. We wanted to talk about the Golden Globes, and then we were like, oh, they don't air in Canada. That's so annoying. Turns out they don't air anywhere.
It's so weird because, like, okay, this is not a pro award show podcast. This is an anti-award show podcast. In the turn, like, I don't remember the last time I watched a full award shows. Like, obviously, I will again like look at all the clips on TikTok and Twitter, but I'm not watching the full like 3 hours or whatever. This one I was gonna watch, and then they're like, JK, it's not airing.
Well, because it was all this scandal, like stars were boycotting it over it being like racist and sexist, and then also COVID and whatever. And I just think like I'm very anti-award show in that I think it's ridiculous. I think that they were irrelevant before the pandemic, and then the pandemic made it seem like extra pathetic and sad, and then they're still dragging it on. And the fact that it's happening and not airing, I'm like, I hope every other award show learns from this and just knows like basically it's like one big Hollywood like circle jerk of just like everyone congratulating each other on how great of a job they're doing. And I'm like, the fact that you guys were able to go off and do it in private, like just keep doing that. You guys clearly need the validation. So just do it. Don't have cameras and clap for each other. And that's all we need.
Because they need the validation for sure from themselves. But like they also, I feel like, need it from us. So do you think they're enjoying themselves more because it's private? Or do you think less because they're not getting the stories from it?
I don't even care what they're getting out of it. My hope is that it airs privately, everyone breathes a big sigh of relief and is like, thank God, just keep it that way. And they're like, oh, okay. You guys don't want to watch the 3-hour televised thing? Like, okay, like who is at all watching any award show besides literally, I picture like old people that have fallen asleep in front of the TV and it just stays on. Like, are those the only people watching this televised event?
I don't know who is watching it. Like, I think of like Young Sheldon or like just random TV shows that I've never heard anyone watch. I just blame it on Middle America.
Yeah.
Which I don't even know where like speaking of geography, I don't know where Middle America is, but like I just blame it on them. Like it's Middle America, isn't it? Like that's who's watching like late night TV shows.
It's rich old white men running the show and deciding who gets nominated. And, you know, the whole thing is not on the pulse of, I don't know, what anyone I know watches or likes. And that's the thing. Like, I would like if the shows that I enjoyed got recognized, but they never do anyway. So, yeah. And I'm not just talking about the trash reality that I like. I mean, actual good shows. But they never get recognized. And then I like red carpets, but sometimes that's not even good. And I would be fine for my red carpet fix with just a Met Gala, and that's it, which isn't even an award show. But
I totally agree. The thing is though is that I would want it more often than once a year, because I will say that's the only thing I would ever watch for is the red carpet / the only thing I ever cared about, because we don't even want, like, I feel like as like the viewers of celebrity in Hollywood and stuff like that, we want more authentic stuff, and like rewritten jokes before introducing an award is just like not cutting it anymore.
No, and it's like late night hosts being like, it's like, exactly. What is this? The Dick Clark show or whatever? Was that the show?
Yes.
You know, like,
yes.
Yeah. Who is consuming this? Who is happy that this is on?
But those clips on YouTube and fucking award speeches and award like the nominations and stuff get so many views on YouTube. And I'm like, again, who is watching this? So I just, again, say Middle America.
I'm guilty of that because Like I'll watch it for the no, but like I'll watch it for the fails, or like we were talking, I think off mic before about like John Travolta being like
Yes.
the
Yes.
wickedly talented Adele does he like I could watch that uncomfortable moment on a loop, and that was an award show.
That's very true. That's like one of my favorite moments of all time. And it's, of course, from an award show.
Yeah, so they
Uh,
do produce moments like that where it's like I think we like the scandals and the fails and whatever. If anyone's having like just a kind of boring, sincere award speech, that's not really getting views, you know?
yeah. Yeah. That's so true. Do you think that part of it is just because award shows are like really ostentatious and we're kind of having a backlash against like flex culture and just like showboating your wealth?
Yes, and that backlash has happened for a little while now, but I think celebrities are so out of touch that they're just like getting together and being like, people aren't happy about the way the Grammys went. Well, let's just like tweak a few things and put out more or less the same show. Like they think that they're like being progressive, but it's in the same way that you'll have these social movements and then you'll have all these companies being like, we're going to be progressive now. And then they like change their Twitter, profile picture
Yeah.
rainbow and they don't do anything else. Like I feel
Yeah.
like award shows is the same thing. They're like, oh yeah, we're gonna change things. Like we'll throw one non-white actor into this category.
Solved it.
Here you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're right. Like we're demanding change and they're moving at snail's pace and
Yeah.
people are over it.
And I just feel like because it brings them so much validation that they're like blinded by that. Most celebrities are thirsty for attention and recognition, and this is an event that centers around that. And so I think that just drowns out some of the negative feedback.
Literally. But it was just so wild to me because I was like, okay, well, I'll look up my like best and worst dressed and I like go on Twitter. I can't find fucking anything.
Yeah.
Like, not even a errant tweet. Like I haven't seen one outfit or anything. So
You know what we need? We need like some made up like we need them to all end, but then maybe just throw in the occasional like award show hosted by John Travolta just so we can watch the train wreck. Because if you sent up someone like that, or if you did one like hosted by Kanye, like hosted by someone who's like an absolute loose cannon, we'd get sound bites. We'd get moments.
Totally. But I feel like they didn't like that because they had Ricky Gervais like all those times who's like can be a loose cannon. And then like he hosted like an award show like 7 times and then they like didn't like him, like invite him back.
Well, because Ricky Gervais was being too real and he was pointing out things
Yeah.
that they didn't want to hear. And when he was making jokes about Harvey Weinstein and everyone like got really uncomfortable and basically because it's like everyone in that room had some connection to Harvey Weinstein and he was pointing that out, that awkwardness, and that is so painfully real. And that's the kind of stuff that we all talk about when those things are in the news, but celebrities are completely silent on it. And he'll point out stuff like that. So no, they don't want that. They're like, we want someone who's like Kevin Hart style, or actually I guess he got kind of canceled, but like that sort of humor where it's like, hey, like here I am,
Yeah. Yeah. Or like James Corden who will like toss on a cat suit like mid show.
No.
Pains me that I just mentioned his name
no,
on this
no,
podcast.
or a rat suit. No, no, that wasn't an award show. That was him with Camila
Cabello doing the crosswalk
thrusting.
musical.
None of us can unsee that.
No, it's burned into my retina. Like you say that and I'm like, I know exactly what you're talking about.
None of us were compensated for the damages done to us by that imagery.
God. So rough. We're going to move on to This Week in Petty, a quick pivot from James Corden.
We're gonna put a pin in that and not circle back.
We can't. I will never circle back to that.
I know. I think
Oh my God.
just when I think we're all done with him as a society, like I think there's still some fans out there. I don't know. Like
Again, middle America.
yeah.
Just blame it on them.
Like wow, peak humor.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, but so for this week in petty, mine is like a petty mess. That can be like
It's a subcategory.
yeah.
Yes.
It's a subreddit of the petty r/petty. Yeah. Okay, so this really like captures just the this poetic moment in my life. So I'm not good at like shopping, like for clothes. I just something about all of the problems in my life like bubble to the surface when it comes time for me to like walk into a department store and like find clothes and pick them out. And I always have like a friend that I have to like wrangle and have on FaceTime, and they have to like walk me through it like a little baby. So I had just like this convergence of like this very stressful week and just a fun little like just a fun little mentee bee basically started to like
iconic.
just started to like slowly rise to the surface over this shopping trip, and there were all these like little mishaps, and basically by the time I got to my car I was bawling and driving but I could still see, so I was like safe.
Don't worry, I've done it before.
Safely driving and crying, yeah, as one does. And I get to like a red light and this homeless guy is like asking for change, and like he comes up to my car and like I didn't have any change, and so I was trying to be like I don't have change, and then he kept like gesturing to me, and I was just trying to be like, and I was like weeping, like full on weeping at this point. And I thought he was still in my car, and he kept singing, and I thought he was being like, but do you have change? And I was like, I don't have change. And we went back and forth like this, and I was like, I don't have change, like I'm sorry, like I'm not trying to be rude, like I don't have change. And then I realized he was trying to be like, are you okay? He was like, wait, wellness check. And he's doing this, but then he's like, thumbs up, thumbs down. I'm like, oh,
I'm dying.
Oh, thumbs up.
Oh my God.
Okay.
My
so sorry.
My face literally hurts from laughing so much. Oh my God.
Yeah, that's when you know you're just
at rock bottom.
Yeah, you're like, well, it's all uphill from here.
Oh my God. It's so funny. I love that story so much. Like, no notes. I think like the thing that I just think about is like, how has this not happened to me? Like, it just sounds so much like a Torry story.
Oh, I'm glad that that's relatable.
It's perfect. It is. Yes.
My classy moment.
No, it is chef's kiss perfection, because literally you crying in your car, me like once a week, you not knowing what someone is saying through a window, also me. I can never understand people.
You're like, why have the two not happened at the same time?
And also someone who is like way more downtrodden than me asking if I'm okay is also, I feel like
babe,
very on the nose.
What's up? Like, are we good?
Oh, that's like, so
thank
funny.
you, kind man. No, I'll be okay. Get home.
That's so funny. Thanks for sharing that. I'm gonna just like,
yeah, no problem.
Really
like I recommend it. Yeah. Probably know what soundtracks to put on for Cry in Your Car. I mean, obviously Folklore and Evermore. Like, yeah. Is there any other album to cry to in your car?
Sour.
Oh yeah. And Sour. Yeah, of course.
Yes. Honestly, those are my 3 go-tos for the last year. So
same. Not surprised. Yeah. Same.
Ugh, so good. Well, that is it. Thank you so much for coming on this week's episode.
Oh my God, this was too much fun, and I'm like, I don't want this to end, but also it doesn't have to, because you've already graced me with the honor of saying that you would come on my podcast. So
I can't wait.
Once I get my shit together and schedule that, then we'll send that out to the press when you'll be on.
Yes, and we already have probably another RTBP. I'm not gonna spoil it for the listeners, but maybe another RTBP
1000%. Yes,
a bonus episode down the line, because I was like, I just texted Emily. I was like, I saw you literally commented on a TikTok like 6 months ago about this very
niche Canadian
situation.
Drama.
Yes,
that we think we need to show the world. We need to tell everyone about it. It's hot Canadian tea.
It is like, honestly, like probably one of the biggest Canadian like scandals in the last 10 years or whatever.
Yeah, we need to do an episode about it. Absolutely.
Yeah. And then you were like, oh, let's talk about it. I was like, oh no, we need to do like a series on it.
No. Yeah, we're not gonna just graze over this. Like,
yeah,
we need to set the stage. We need to just like name all the characters. Yeah.
yes,
I'm so down.
I'm so excited for that. So stay tuned for that. Where can the listeners find your podcast and plug anything else that you would like to?
Okay, well, thanks to Torry understanding how technology works. A preview for my podcast will be up by the time this comes out. So everything is It's Become a Whole Thing. So the podcast is It's Become a Whole Thing. You can subscribe on Apple so that when it comes out on the 24th, like you'll see it appear. On TikTok, It's Become a Whole Thing. On Instagram, that's where you can find me.
It's become a whole thing.
Yeah, it's become a whole thing.
Aptly named. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. We'll talk again soon.
And there you have it. Thank you to Emily Rose for joining me today. And thank you so much for listening. If you are along for the ride, follow me on socials at RTBP Podcast. And let Emily and I know what you thought about all of these crazy stories and what you want to hear about next. I hope you are safe and healthy out there. As always, I'm your host, Torry, and I'm ready to be petty. See you soon. Bye.